I've got the lovely Susan Gardner with me here today. She is known as the Life Surgeon. She's an accredited ILM Wellbeing Coach and Mental Health Master Practitioner. She's also a chrysalis effect specialist and mentor. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Avnita. Thank you for inviting me. This is wonderful.
It's so great to have you. I know you've got a plethora of skills and experience, and we're dying to hear about it all. Please do tell us your journey, anything, perhaps how you started off, what brought you to do holistic work?
Okay. Right, there's about 3 questions in there, but I will start with I started my life with a career started a long time ago now. I became a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser for many years and still am. Still do hairdressing to this day, for that's my creative outlet, I should say. I absolutely adore haircutting and colouring, so that never leaves you. From there, it really, there were personal circumstances which moved me out of hairdressing, and I actually went into the credit information services back in the 80s, and spent about 15 years in sales and marketing, so a whole different arena. And yeah, being in the corporate area really taught me a lot. It certainly was a challenging space to be in.
Yeah, but may I ask why you thought it was challenging? And it's interesting, isn't it, how everything, all our experiences seem to teach us something to where we are now. It all seems to lead to the same place. Why did you find it challenging?
Well, I guess it was, yeah, I think it was challenging because um, it was so different in many senses. Um, from my hairdressing, um, business is business, of course. So, I mean, I actually got to the point where I was a part owner of a hair salon with 40 staff. So I learned how to run a business as well as, you know, the actual creative side of hairdressing. But going into the credit information world, um, it was the world that my father had spoken about a lot. And as he came from a family of accountants.
Right.
So and yet I never really saw myself as a finances, money matters person. And yet I find myself being drawn into the credit information world. And it was good for me. It did teach me a lot about money management. Um, and not all good, I have to say, not all good. Um, yeah, because obviously credit is credit, and it gets misused and abused. So I saw a lot of that within companies and businesses, and yeah, so it was a bit of an eye opener, and it was a time period where there was great challenges in the workplace itself around women being in that environment, and again witnessed some stuff which wasn't good, and it eventually took its toll, as I think a lot of women in that corporate arena end up competing. You know, it's like we want to prove ourselves, and it gets all a little masculine and a little out of hand in terms of that competitiveness, and working all hours just to get the sale, you know. Yeah, I'm glad, you know, I'm glad that it got to a point where I had to leave. I had a bit of a breakdown at that point in time. I had new relationship, new marriage and new baby, and my mum passed. So a lot going on, which really just tipped me over the edge. I didn't have the energy, the reserves to deal with it, and enough was enough, and I needed to get out. And so that was the turning point yet again in my life, where for a while I wasn't sure what to do. I ended up freelance hairdressing, which, I tell you what, hairdressing has always saved my bacon a few times. People always need their hair doing, hey?
I need it done as well. I haven't been for a while. Your hair's looking great anyway.
Well, that, I do have the tools.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, it's so from there I found myself working, that sounds ridiculous, as though one day I woke up and found myself working somewhere, but in a sense it did feel a bit like that. I worked for a local spa, and that's at that time I think we had friends over who introduced me to Reiki. They needed to get off because she was going for a Reiki session. Well, what the heck's that?
Yeah.
I've never
So
heard
how long ago
of
was
it.
that, Susan?
How long ago? It would be over 20 years ago. Yeah.
Because I know you've been here in this field for a long time.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so it sounded fascinating because she told us how she'd been introduced to it, and it was a good friend of hers who'd had chronic back issues. So this could be of interest to you, Avnita. Yeah, she had this person had chronic back issues and had tried everything. We've heard that one quite a few times, haven't we? Had been down various routes, and I think had been introduced to this Reiki practitioner, and had the most extraordinary experience as a consequence of this, and no longer had the back pain that they'd been plagued with for such a long time. So she had explored it. She ended up having sessions, and I thought, right, this sounds intriguing. I just, there was something about it that really captured my imagination. So I did my bit of research, and of course we didn't really have the internet like we do now.
True. Yeah.
It was only really just coming in. Yeah, my well, the long and short of it is that I found a lady who practiced, who taught Reiki, who practiced it, and I went to see her, and I just knew, after the time that I was laid on her couch and enjoying this very deeply relaxing, weird thing, which I found very difficult to describe to my husband and the family at that time. But I just knew. I sat up bolt right and said, "You've got to teach me that. You've got to teach me how to do that." And so I brought myself onto her next course, and yeah, the rest is history. I went through all the stages of Reiki, and have been a master practitioner teacher now for, well, yeah, 20 odd years.
Oh, I see. So you started off with Reiki. I didn't actually know that about you.
Yeah.
And then you've done so many various things, including mental health and lifestyle prescriptions, of which I'm also trained in. So what you specialize in helping professional women with anxiety and stress. Is it, what was anxiety and
Related and stress induced
yeah.
anxiety and fatigue issues? Yes, very typical.
So what made you do that? Is it because you have a particular interest? And I can see where you got to the professional side of it because of your corporate background. So again, that's an element in it. So, What made you choose this aspect of it?
Well, I guess it was really because of my own personal experience of burnout and overwhelm being common factors, and seeing how many of my colleagues were also, struggling, challenged with that way of working and way of trying to juggle their commitments with their home life, their family, or whatever their relationships circumstances were. And I still see it. I still see this as something which can be a real challenge for women. And having been there, I want to share with them that you can have the success of a great career, of a great job, of a great home life, whatever your circumstances are. We can all have that. It's about recognizing that your body needs certain things, though, to be able to support that and to be able to engage within that way of living your life, whatever it is, wherever your interests are. Our bodies need equal amount of rest, for example, to the activity that we do. But what happens is we get so caught up, of course, in our day-to-day activities, and the more technology assists us, the more we cram into our day.
That's true. Yeah.
And we really do need to ensure that daily we are scheduling in that sacred time for ourselves, so that we can ensure that we have that balance. And actually, I'll let you into a secret, Avnita. I do this because it's what keeps me on track.
That's such an interesting point. You've just every time you're talking and saying things, I think, oh yeah, that's so interesting. But like I can't remember everything I want to keep bringing up. But that is, when I do sessions, also, like some people have said to me, that do you find it exhausting, or does it take away your energy? And do you find you take on other people's traumas when you do sessions? And that is the reverse is true. I found. So that's why I know that this work is right for me, because I actually find it healing. I have to do it, otherwise I hurt. So it's weird, isn't it? So I guess that's what you're saying. But it's really interesting. And tell me, what other things would you bring in? You said you need like various things for your body to get to being like to having a career and to enjoying home life. So what are your tools exactly? If I came to you with oh, Susan, I've got a really great job and I want to not be burnt out and I want to still do really well, what would you suggest to me? How would you start working on me?
Well, okay. With the coaching process, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, and certainly will at least draw on similarities in the way that you work, Avnita. But we are all individuals. So whilst there may be a framework that I use, it's always about the person who has come to see me, and understanding what's going on for them. How is it for them? What has been successful? What hasn't been successful? How has it impacted their life? How has it impacted their health and wellness? So it's finding out those key questions initially, in order to be able to gain a bigger perspective, the meta perspective, hence meta well-being. Being able to understand that bigger picture gives us more information, so that we can really drill down into the things that are working versus the things that aren't. And sometimes it's the first time that someone has stopped long enough to be able to do this type of exercise and just become really clear about their own circumstances. We tend to get so caught up looking at outside of ourselves, looking at others, that again, this is part of that process though, of that sacred time to just be with yourself, so that you can have that awareness of how you are engaging with life, how you're interacting, what serves you, what doesn't. So that's where I would start in that whole process.
Yeah. And that's interesting also, because you say that we have to check what has worked and what hasn't, because there is not one thing that will suit all of us. And even at different points of our lives and different stages of our illnesses and symptoms or whatever, not just illnesses, but our stress and our emotional stuff, I find that, well, something else we can find that works better than last time, or something that's quicker. So it doesn't have to be the same thing, does it? It's like we all need each other and need the different therapies that are available. Yeah. So do carry on. Anything else you want to tell us?
Yeah, that prompts me into I guess bringing a little highlight onto things that might not be working for us now. Doesn't mean that they didn't work. It may be that we needed to use those, whatever it was, resources,
Yeah.
to be a certain way back then. But
Mm-hmm.
now we've moved on. We're in a different place. And that is like, it's a bit like, if we liken it to a computer program, there comes a point as through evolution, we need to upgrade. We need to upgrade the software. We need to then, at some point in time, upgrade the hardware, because everything needs to be compatible with where you're at. So, it's the microcosm in the macrocosm, and
Yeah.
we're the same. We're always evolving and changing and transforming, whether we like it or not. It is part of life. It is natural for us to be in that state of flux and flow. It just is.
Mm. And how about this? Sometimes I think when people try different therapies, they feel, oh, it didn't work or it got worse. Things got. I often hear this,
Mm.
but I say, well, maybe it's clearing. Like you and I know about regeneration and releasing like blocked energies, and but also things are working in the background, but you can't feel it. And then perhaps it's like you're saying as well, that you had to go through that and then be at a different place now. But I do find a lot of things are effective, but you can't see it because energy is mostly hidden, isn't it? It just shows up in our lives, but we can't actually pinpoint it unless someone else perhaps steps in and sees it for us, because we're too close to our own issues, aren't we? Too tied up with things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing as well, isn't it? That at any point in time, we we can only ever experience a certain amount consciously, whereas we know actually intellectually that there is so much more. But it would blow our minds if we were if we had that capacity as human beings to be able
Right.
to experience everything. But the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, which of course is what a hypnotherapist will tap into, is registering all those other thousands of bits of information. And so, the human is only ever going to have in their awareness a certain amount of information. So whatever is of interest to that individual will be what they see. And this is the lens that we look through, of course.
Right.
It's all part of that. Which in turn, which is what makes us so diverse and different and interesting, because we all have different interests. What interests you is going to, there's obviously some similarities because we both have done the same courses. But then outside of that, there'll be other things that I don't know about you, which are your passion or your interest. And so I think I've gone off track here, but
No, it's fine. It's all interesting.
but it's what makes us unique, and it's what makes us fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
True.
And our potential, therefore, to choose change when things are not as we want them to be, we can do that. It's then comes back to being aware of the things that are contributing to the circumstances that we want different. We want them to be different.
Yeah.
So as soon as we make it conscious to ourselves, then we can make conscious choices.
Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes I find that I can talk to someone and they really don't get what I'm trying to say about making conscious decisions. They're like, I'm fine. And they'll bury their heads in the sand. And I find that quite frustrating because they won't even try that this can be changed in an easier way rather than, pushing and pushing and then trying to get changes because they're looking on the outside rather than the introspection and awareness. And that doesn't mean that you can change things suddenly, but what about those baby steps and getting closer to your goals?
Yes.
So, you probably deal with a whole range of illnesses and emotional stuff, stress, and things that you probably even could, help people with relationships and abundance and things like that. Because do you find it's all tied up? And again, I'm going to do that thing where I'm asking you a few questions. But I'm interested in like knowing what's in your heart, like how you feel about life and how, what is our reason for suffering? Because I find for me, before I became a bit more aware of what was going on inside, I was suffering more, and life wasn't as good as now because uh, I couldn't be resilient. And it's like you're saying, some people just burn out and they can't, you haven't got the resources to tap into. But now if something goes for me in my life, I can actually just build some resilience and have some foundation. So what do you, what are your views on life and suffering? I think this is quite interesting because I can see you're quite spiritual. You're talking about Reiki and different things. So how do you feel about that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? That we have the capacity for great joy and we have the capacity for great suffering. And it is like a juxtaposition, that we have that. I keep doing this, because everything in our world is duality. In the universe, it's all about the two sides of the coin,
Yeah.
heads and tails, black and white, pain, no pain,
Yeah.
joy, suffering. But what's the aim is to come here, is to be heart-centered, to come back into the middle of the road. So when we're here, we're in balance, and yet without dipping into suffering or dipping into joy, we that's what helps us to really be here, be present, to really feel, to notice. I mean, pain, there is a reason for us having pain. It's our choice as to how long we allow ourselves to stay in that place of pain. And very often when we start looking underneath the pain, getting right down to the root cause and understanding what's actually caused it originally, and think of it like a set of dominoes. There's but you've got the dominoes one on top of the other, as the very first domino is representative of something that's happened, which started this whole process off, in and we then feel it physically. It's a sensation that we feel. It's somewhere in our body, which is representative of that incident, that experience, that we at that moment in time didn't have anything to help us to be able to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of on that occasion, instead of it getting support, you getting support in some way to help process it, to to help heal it, to let it go, to feel better, we stay with it. And sometimes that happens, it can happen for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes we're in a state of overwhelm. We therefore, maybe we're too young at that time when it first happened. Or maybe we're in some hierarchy where we're unable to ask for help, or receive help, or get help, or whatever it is that keeps us there. Unconsciously, we then start to, it's on our radar to protect ourselves. So anything that looks like that original incident becomes something that we'll avoid, or we'll do whatever to protect ourselves. So we're encapsulating these things which may have happened, and it might not just be one thing. There can be a few things which are nothing related, but they're, if we are unable to get support, to find ways of being able to deal with these original life-changing, life-altering experiences, then we suffer. We really can. That the suffering comes from it. That pain, which can be emotional, it can be mental, it can be spiritual, it can be physical, it can be all of those things. The longer it's within us, the more we suffer.
And without even having knowledge that something can be done. And this is, I often complain about this, that I wish holistic healing would come along as soon as we enter a doctor's surgery, that, okay, let's look at the whole picture rather than just going into what's wrong, what's the issue. And I think there's so many effective, like you said, you went to the Reiki healer and they had somebody who had back pain and got rid of it. So there's so many ways of getting rid of pain in all different ways, pain and, illnesses and emotional stuff, if we know how to do it. And it's a journey. Don't you find it just takes time? You have to be patient. And sometimes, because it's so effective, it can happen quickly. But I often feel people need to hear the black and white. Doesn't it work? How long is it going to take? And they want quick fixes. And but the best, and even for me, I've had to go through all my obstacles and all that being present and working through my issues little by little has actually transformed my health. So have you must have had these challenges yourself and realized you've got access to so many other effective healing, rather than just sticking to what everybody normally adheres to.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the key. Firstly, is to reconnect with yourself in the knowledge that there is always a reason why your body is expressing in a certain way. And it might not be nice, it might be uncomfortable, it might be blooming painful. But that is there for a reason. And sometimes it's not what you think anyway. Well, a lot of the time it's not what you think. And it might be that that's part of the healing process. Yeah. Pain can often be, if the pain is not telling you to, if it's not about telling you to remove your hand from a hot plate or a hot, because pain is there to alert you that something is not right for you, and to remove that part of your body from that possible danger point. But if there's nothing of obvious danger, then the pain is often regeneration. And what happens is, because nobody likes pain, and the human thing, and I have to say, over the last 40 years or so, we have been conditioned to fear these processes, these signs and symptoms, rather than be curious about them. And when we're curious about them, we can start, actually, you can map it out, you can journal when you're feeling pain or discomfort or whatever it is. Because that will correlate with some interesting things that you are thinking, that you're witnessing, that you're participating in. You'll start to see patterns which really show up some really very interesting things as to what then you can do differently to actually support that, because that pain is actually part of the regeneration process and isn't the problem. The problem is that you keep going back to, and it can be happening in an instant. It's not necessarily going on for hours or days or weeks. It might be, but it happens so quickly once we start to recognize this, and we embrace our own natural healing, which is taking place all the time. Our bodies are adjusting and adapting, tweaking, without us telling them what to do. It just happens. We don't tell ourselves how to breathe, and then all the chemical exchanges that go on, that need to go on, that keeps us alive. But there's all these complex and complicated processes which we don't need to understand. A bit like a fax machine. You put your document into the fax machine, you put in a number, you press send, and voila, it arrives on the other side of the world. I mean, how does that work?
Exactly.
I'm sure I could learn. I'm sure I could go and learn how it works, and I don't need to.
No, that's right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
To trust. We have to trust in ourselves, and that this is all happening for an amazing reason. And please hear the message. Get out of fear, and really find ways to reassure yourself, to learn how to feel that trust in yourself, in your body, and what it's actually really doing for you. Because the longer you stay in fear around what might be going on, and what might, in a negative way, that's what creates the suffering. We need to liberate ourselves.
And what would you say to someone? Oh, by the way, if I know we've had a couple of people coming on and listening, and so if they have any questions, if anybody would like to ask a question to Susan directly, please do write it in. I'll read it out to her. What do you say to, if, because it can almost sound like if you trust your body enough, but hold on, somebody's ill, and how would you, they feel ill, they can feel the symptoms, they can't perhaps get out of bed, whatever's going on, and it's been proven to them, all the illnesses they have. So how can you trust the body then?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it, when you're faced with that. And yeah, I think we've all had times where we've been bed bound for whatever reasons, and flu tends to be the common one that most people have experienced at some point or other. But the point of that is that here we are now in full health. So these things are transient, and they're part of life, and they're part of our experience in learning more about ourselves. And the more information that we can become aware of and take on in a way that empowers us, so as to recognize that there are positive signs around it, even when we're really poorly, and to actually understand what has led to that point in time, can be very helpful to make life more comfortable, and to at least create more quality within your life. So sometimes we might have found ourselves at a point in life where wellness is escaping and eluding us, and that that's when life can be very tricky. And I appreciate that. And what we need to keep doing is continuing to find ways of soothing ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So these are what I call the 4 key pillars of health and wellness within meta wellbeing realms. And the reason for bringing this into it is that often when someone's really poorly, when they're really ill, one of those pillars, or maybe more than one of those pillars, is being neglected in some way. So there is always something that we can be doing to help ourselves. And that's the message, is that it's so important to cultivate hope and to really remind ourselves that there's always, whilst in this moment we might not be able to connect and think of the thing that is going to help us, know that there is always something. We may feel as though we've done everything, we've tried everything, and there's nothing else out there. I promise you, there's always something. There's always something or someone else, because sometimes we have our teams around us who are supporting us, and there can be a level of knowledge and understanding that we reach. Everyone has, we're all at different levels of understanding. So again, remember there's other people out there, and a supportive team of health professionals will always be there on your side. So they're looking to bring in someone else who has that next level of information and connection.
Yeah, so just be open to people who can help you. And if you can't do it yourself, there's a lot we can do ourselves, can't we? If we just know how and what to do. But sometimes we can't. Even you and I will reach out to our colleagues and to need help because we can't do it ourselves sometimes. I've had a quick look at any messages, and Susan Calmiller, my friend, she says, hi, able to attend for part of this. Great. So she's been enjoying it. And actually, can you tell us more about the thermo buzzer? I know you use that. I don't know how you're doing it exactly in your practice, but do tell us.
Well, it's something that I've been very excited about. Over the last couple of years, I've been doing my training, thermo buzzer technician training, and
that's with Johannes. Is it Johannes Wisslinger? Yeah.
Right. And it's just so perfect for that lifestyle, educational, preventative tool, if you like, because it's that way. No, that way.
It is. You've got it right now.
It's so visual. And that was actually one of the other things that I just wanted to finish off saying. Anybody who's incapacitated and potentially even bedbound, visualization is such a powerful tool that we don't even realize that we are often engaging in that. Everything starts from the imagination. So, to purposefully engage with a visualization which is hopeful, which is of beautiful things, of maybe if you have difficulty moving, see yourself moving. Your body doesn't know the difference. So we can build that muscle through visualization. And that's the power of what we view. So why use the thermo buzzer? I will get used to this mirror thing, mirror image. Why use it? Well, for the majority of humans, it's I'll believe it when I see it.
That's not quite right, is it?
Well, we know, you and I know that actually you need to you need to believe it.
And feel it,
And
perhaps
yes,
visualize it,
absolutely,
like you say.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yet what this offers is like it's a benchmark, because it's purely it's a digital infrared imaging system. So it's reading the surface body temperature of your body. And what it does is it helps to it identifies um, asymmetries in the body. So where there's temperature differentials, maybe from one side, one side to the other.
Yeah.
Um, it could be anywhere. It could be anywhere. Um, and it's also showing the balance in the body. It's the energy systems, the meridians, um, um, and it gets really fascinating looking at the patterns. And if you like, I'll put up some photos. If there's a thread of this later, I shall post some, which I did of myself yesterday, because I'm doing a journal to be able to really notice the differences. Say scanning after you've eaten, scanning before you've eaten, scanning before treatment.
Yeah.
And all those variables can obviously influence your body, but we all have an energy imprint. We all have our own energy signature. And what this brilliant bit of kit does, the photographs, the images themselves can help us see. It's like a visual snapshot. This is where we are right now, and it may confirm for that individual that maybe they've been overdoing it and there's a lot of activity in their heads, for example, and just seeing it can be what they need to go, right, I am going to put that time in my diary for me, and I'm going to break up my schedule more to ensure that I'm standing up away from the laptop, the computer, so it helps, it galvanizes people into that, making sure that they're committing to themselves. And then they come back for a scan in a week or a month or whatever, and they've been practicing these new ways of doing things, and lo and behold, it shows the progress.
Oh, so then you go looking from really red hot and whatever it is, I don't know what the colors mean, to looking radiant and indigo and blue and all relaxed.
Well, that funnily enough, that sounds more like Kirlian photography that you're describing there. Not quite, it's not quite that. But yes, it's very helpful in being able to see exactly where you are, and it's non-invasive. There's no contact. It's just very easy to conduct, to do. So even within the conditions that we practitioners are having to work around, it's something that I can offer people.
Oh, lovely. Okay. So let me just see if there's any questions or anything else. I haven't got anything more. I'm sure people will watch the replay. Do you have any? We can start wrapping up. So basically, they can contact you. We put your contact details on, but you really highly recommend this them trying this thermobuzzer imaging, because it sounds like you've really taken to it, and you see people feeling less stressed and getting healthier with it, because they're like you said, taking snapshots of is it like the auras, because you mentioned the meridian points as well, they can see the meridian points. That's really interesting.
Okay, it's not the aura, it is physiology. And by the way, it's not pathology. So just to be clear, we do not diagnose. But what it does help us to do is people come to me with specific health issues, and are wanting to get to the bottom of, what is this, what's going on, and what can I do about it, how can I help myself, and move through this. So what it does is it helps to pinpoint, and sometimes we use the acupressure and acupuncture points. So for example, here on the face, your stomach,
Yep.
these are the stomach reflexes as
Yep.
well, bladder, and you probably know this. So if there is, if that is typical and well, it's correlating with their experience, they can then see that through coaching, through them taking away their lifestyle prescription, they know that it's working for them,
Yeah.
and it's encouraging, and it's like, it's a great way of really learning to trust your body, because you're
Sure.
seeing it. You know, we might graze ourselves, or cut ourselves, or and we just instinctively know that it's going to heal. We go and wash the wound, we dry it up, we tend to it as it needs to be dealt with, and within 7 days it's well on its way.
I know. Yeah.
It's a second thought, and
Mm.
really that's what we're doing here, is encouraging people to trust that the same processes are going on the inside as well.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you can pinpoint the areas that need addressing. So if it's your lungs or your shoulder or wherever it is, you can see the areas of weakness. Is that right? And then to
Well, it's not
correct me.
necessarily a weakness. It's more likely, it it's likely to come out. Let's say it was the shoulders. I had a lady just this week, and she is currently under a lot of pressure, is feeling the responsibility, actually the burden of responsibility.
Mm.
And sure enough, there was clear high activity in her shoulder areas,
Right.
and it was something that she was aware of, but she hadn't really spoken about it. So it was an opportunity for her to really express herself. And by doing that, that's part of the process of that letting go, because you know, sometimes especially when it comes to responsibilities, it may be that we don't want to admit to it. You know, we feel that's a weakness, or that we're
Yeah.
putting someone down, or you
Mm.
know, but actually, what a relief it is to actually say that, you know, with no judgment, but just to say how you're feeling
Yeah.
about it. You
Yeah.
get a lot of relief from it, and it starts the healing process.
Lovely. That's
Beautiful.
fabulous. So, do you have, we'll start closing up. Do you have any parting words, perhaps some interesting cases or anything you want to share with us before we close up?
Wow. Oh, anything more specific than, well, I guess I just want to say, anyone who happens to be listening to this, I do specialize in ME, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, with the crisis effect. We mentioned that right at the beginning. So if that is an area that maybe you'd like a little more help with, if you want to have a look at the work that I do on that, please go over to metawellbeing.com, and also look at the crisis effect .co.uk
Mm-hmm.
for more information there. And yeah, just yeah, get in touch if
To
there's,
reach out, yeah.
yeah,
And to always have hope and not feel that things can't be resolved. Just try. Yes.
there's
Yeah.
always someone or something. I promise you, absolutely promise you.
Oh, well, you're looking so radiant, and you just beam loads of great energy and health that I would want to speak to you as well if I had an issue. So I would not hesitate and to recommend you to other people. I know you've got a great reputation. Um, thank you so much for being on my Facebook group. And if you do want to share the video, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Avnita Suri, but the Facebook community I run is Freedom from Chronic Pain, because that's the one I absolutely love. Dealing with is pain. What a weird thing to say, but So thank you so much, Susan. I really, really do appreciate it. And so thank you all for coming to join us. We do appreciate it. And see you later. Yes. Bye. Bye, Susan.
Thanks, Avnita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.